Welcome to today's session of Bhagavad Gita as it is. We are on chapter 3, Karma Yoga, and we'll be covering the verses 21 to verse 32. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate yat kripatamam vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinu Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Haryam Tatsa. Verse 21, chapter 2, Karma Yoga. Yad yad acharati shreshthas tad evetaro janah sayat parmanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Verse 22. Na me parthasti kartavyam trishu lokesha kinchana nanavaptam avaptavyam varta evacha karmani. Translation: O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything. And yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. Verse 23. Yadi hya aham na vartevyam jatu karmanya atindritah mama vartamanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvashah. Translation: For if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. Verse 24. Utsi diyor ime loka na kuryam karma cheda aham sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyam imaha prajaha. Translation: If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. Verse 25. Saktaha karmanya avidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryat vidvamsa tatha saktash chikirshur loka sangraham. Translation: As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. Verse 26. Na buddhi bedham janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidvan yuktah samacharan. Translation: So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. Verse 27. Prakritehe kriyamanani gunahe karmani sarvashah ahankara vimhudatma kartaham iti manyate. Translation: The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Verse 28. Tattva vittu mahabaho guna karma vibhagayoh guna guneshu vartanta iti matva na sajjate. Translation: One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, O mighty armed, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. Verse 29. Prakriter guna sammudha sajjante guna karmasu. Tana kritsanna vido mandan kritsanna vinna vichalayet. Translation: bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior to the performer's lack of knowledge. Verse 30. Mai sarvani karmani sannyasya chetasa nirashira nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigata jwaraha. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship and free from lethargy, fight. Verse 31. Ye me matamidam nityam anuttishtanti manavaha shraddhavanto nasuyanto muchyante tepi karmabhi. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow these teachings faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. Verse 32. Yetva etad abhyasuyanto nanutishtanti me matam sarvajnana vimhudam shatan vidhi nashtan acetasaha. But those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not follow them are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled, and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. So Krishna is continuing to instruct Arjuna on the battlefield about how to offer all the results of his activities without getting attached to them and offer them to Bhagwan himself, so that he stays aloof from the results and he doesn't get bound with the results of his actions, and so as he can go beyond the sakam karma, which will be bhakti, which is Krishna consciousness. So through Arjuna, Krishna is giving us this knowledge how we can pursue the path of bhakti so easily by just not being attached to the results of our activities. In verse 21, Bhagwan is giving the example that how actually himself he is living the life of a grihastha when he transcended on this earth to re-establish the religion. Bhagwan didn't just sit down, not doing anything. He was doing all the duties which were appropriate to his age at a particular time. So he was a successful grihastha himself, Bhagwan. He was doing all his religious duties in the house, in the palace, for his citizens and for the wider community. And in the purport, Prabhupada tells us that a teacher can only lead by example. So whatever a person of high repute is going to do in the society, the ordinary men, the so-called, we can say these days, the fans of a celebrity these days, they just follow him. So a spiritual leader, if he is living properly his life, then the followers of that spiritual leader are going to live their lives according to that benchmark set by the leader. So the onus is very much on the leader. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has told us, he revived the teachings of Bhagavad Gita 500 plus years ago in Mayapur, Navadvip Dham, and it's been encouraged by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the wider society to read the Srimad Bhagavatam and also to follow in the footsteps of the great devotees whose pastimes have been narrated in Srimad Bhagavatam. So moving on to verse 22, Bhagwan tells Arjun that there is no prescribed duty for Bhagwan, but still Bhagwan is engaged while he is on this earth. He is descended on the earth. He is doing all his duties because Bhagwan is also establishing a set standard for all the people around him and for the following generations of the Kali Yuga, the Yuga which we are in at the moment. Bhagwan is nothing like us, whether it's the case of the body, the form, or the pastimes or the qualities, but still Bhagwan does everything just to set an example for us, just to encourage us, and just to make us understand what is our position in this world and why we are here in this world. In verse 23, Bhagwan further tells Arjun that if I deviate from my duties, if I slack in performing my duties, if I am not keeping the high standards of what I am preaching, then what's going to happen is that people are going to follow the suit, the people are going to imitate him. So Bhagwan is very careful in performing all the religious duties out of home and in the home, as Prabhupada tells in his purport, as a householder as well. In verse 24, Bhagwan further reiterates the point that if it wasn't for him to perform his prescribed duties, then the world will be completely ruined, completely devastated, and whatever wrongdoings that would emerge from that state of affairs would be pinned upon Bhagwan himself. People will be pointing at Bhagwan, that Bhagwan is the cause of all the wrong population or the unwanted progeny which have been created in the world. So Arjun is reminded that he has to take part in the battle, because the Pandavas, they have tried their best to tell the sons of Dhritarashtra that let's have a peaceful, amicable resolve and not go to the war. But they haven't listened to any of the pleas of the Pandavas, so they have to fight, because if they don't fight, then what's going to happen is the unlawful elements, the sons of Dhritarashtra, who are so unruly and who live life which is completely devoid of religion, what's going to happen is the citizens of the Kauravas, they are going to follow the example set by them, and in turn there will be a lot of unwanted population, unwanted as per se, that the ones who are not following the religion, who are unruly and who are not disciplined at all, who do not believe in following the prescribed duties and respecting the moral ethics of the good human life as set by the Vedas and as set by Bhagwan himself. So the following the prescribed duty has been put to a big emphasis by Bhagwan in this verse. Now, Prabhupada reminds us that yes, we have to follow the prescribed duties as Bhagwan was following his duties, but we should not try to imitate the leelas of the Bhagwan at the same time. If somebody thinks that they can hold the Govardhan hill in their left hand, in their small finger of the left hand for 7 days at the age 7, that is not going to be possible, because that is only possible by Bhagwan himself. So if we follow the prescribed duties, if we are living in mode of goodness, and if we are able to transcend and live our life nicely, then there can be so much less vices as well in the world around us as well. People will be following, keeping away from the intoxication and the bad habits. So living a regulative life is also going to be very appropriate for getting onto the ladder of bhakti. But unfortunately, Kali Yuga is not blessed. We have got all kinds of situations around us. There are 3 modes of nature which bind us from morning to night and from night to morning. So we have to use our intelligence and try to follow the instructions from the scriptures given by Lord himself, which Lord has given us for us through Arjun. And if we can keep ourselves in goodness most of the time and follow our prescribed duties, then we can perform the bhakti for Bhagwan very easily. In verse 25, Bhagwan further is emphasizing that the duties performed with the attachment to the results and the ones who are performing the duties who are not attached to the results may look similar, but the preference should be to do the duties without attachment, and this will help everyone in the society to go on the right path. And this is what Lord has shown us, and that path is the path of Krishna consciousness. When you are surrendering the results of your duties to Lord, you're not attached to the results. You are using the results for the propagation, for the benefit of the society, for enthusing the people with the Krishna consciousness, and uniting the ones who are a little bit unaware at the moment, who have got the love for the Almighty dormant in their hearts at the moment, by introducing them to the Krishna consciousness, and just telling them that they can carry on living their lives, but live in the mode of goodness, and not to be attached to the material activities so much, and not to be so much attached to the sense gratification as well. Instead, use everything for Krishna. Then even a very ordinary activity also becomes Krishna consciousness. In verse 26, Bhagwan again tells Arjun that people who are very much attached to the results of the prescribed duties, their mind should not be disrupted a lot as well. At least they're doing something, they're working. So they shouldn't be encouraged from stopping the work. They should be encouraged to carry on working, but slowly they should be introduced to the devotional service. And we know the best way is Prabhupada, like Prabhupada did when he went to West in America, that he used prasad, because prasad is something which is liked by everyone. Everyone needs food to sustain themselves, to sustain their body, to live. And this is the first thing which is going to bring people to Krishna consciousness, and they will appreciate the wholesome vegetarian food which is offered to them. And from then onwards, slowly they can be introduced to the chanting and to the literature and the philosophy. There should be no rush in rushing anyone into Krishna consciousness, because we all are on an individual journey, and we all have some scars, the conditioning from the past lives, from this life, and Krishna has got a plan for everyone. And if we have understood that what is the ultimate goal of life, which is going back to Godhead and trying to understand Krishna here first of all, and then only we can introduce others as well to this journey. We should look back on our own journey, how it was and how it came about. So this is going to help everyone progress onto the path of Krishna consciousness gradually. But some people will advance very early than others, because it, like I said, it's all dependent on the conditioning from our past lives and conditioning from this life, and how we are going to take the Krishna consciousness when it is introduced to us first. Verse 27, Bhagwan is reminding Arjuna again that the spirit soul is always thinking that he or she is the doer of all the work, and they don't realize, like Krishna is reiterating again and again, it is the work is actually performed by the three modes of material nature vis-a-vis goodness, passion and ignorance. So the perspective of doing work is different between a person who is performing the material duties and a person who is acting on the Krishna consciousness level, because one has understood that he or she is self, and self is part and parcel of Krishna. So they are not the doer, it's God, he's the doer. They've understood that they can't even move their finger or even walk a step if Bhagwan hasn't allowed that consciousness to pervade in them at that moment. So the bodily and the mental activities all have to be offered to Bhagwan. That is the only way we are going to progress in the Krishna consciousness in our life. So sense gratification also has to be limited, and it will all happen once we get the mercy through the devotees, and Krishna will give us mercy as well. This is the Purushottam month, so auspicious. Krishna is going to unlimitedly to everyone, whoever is going to. Sorry, the connection went for a little bit, so I'm reconnected again. So I was just saying that in this month of Purushottam, Bhagwan is giving his causeless mercy to everyone. So let us take the mercy which is free-flowing and try to pass it on to others as well, and invoke the Krishna consciousness, the relationship between us and Krishna in ourselves and others. In verse 28, Krishna is addressing Arjuna again as Mahabahu, that is the mighty armed, that he is telling him not to engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, rather to use his intelligence and know the difference between the work in devotion and work in just for the results of your activities. So the difference between the ordinary life and the life led with the Krishna as the focus of all your activities, that is life in Krishna consciousness, life of a devotion service. So in purport, but Prabhupada reminds us again that in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is told that the absolute truth is in three different features: Brahman, Brahmatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's called Tattvavit. Tattvavit because he knows his own primal position in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have to engage ourselves in the activities of Bhagwan, in the activities of Krishna consciousness, and try to do everything in devotion. Devotion is actually love of God, something done with love, something done with reverence, something done with without any motive attached to it. In verse 29, Krishna is again telling Arjun that we shouldn't be bewildered by the modes of material nature and be attached to the material activities, the results. And ignorant people are going to do this, but the ones who are in mode of ignorance, the ones who haven't realized Bhagwan yet, the ones who haven't understood, they're not just the body, they are the soul, who are just still living on the bodily level. The ones who have realized, they should not try to unsettle them or make them restless, but we should set example to them, and but still they should work. This is the main thing, that they're still working. They are not just sitting idle. So we have to understand they're doing such things because of ignorance on their part, because they don't understand the philosophy and they don't understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead yet. So we have to be very gentle with such people, because we shouldn't forget that not long ago we ourselves were almost in the same situation. We were also living on a bodily platform. We were unaware of the devotional service ourselves. So one who is going to take the devotional service, they are going to sort of fast track progress, make the progress in fast track into Krishna consciousness. And in verse 30, Krishna is telling Arjun that you surrender everything, whatever you're doing, unto me, and that is unto Krishna. But that has to be with the full knowledge of Krishna, through the scriptures, through the advanced devotees, through the association, through a bona fide spiritual master. And you shouldn't be desiring any profits, and you shouldn't be showing any proprietorship, and you should be free from lethargy, Arjun is told, and he should get ready to fight, to do his prescribed duty. That is the symptoms of an advanced devotee, that he has been told by Bhagwan, by Krishna, that he has to serve him, and he has been told why he has to do this. And who is he serving? He's serving Bhagwan. He's helping God to reestablish the religion and annihilate the irreligion. And Krishna is guiding him from start, how he has to navigate his way through the war. And the strategy is also been told to Arjuna nicely by Bhagwan. And Bhagwan is there as his charioteer. What else Arjun could have asked for? So this is the secret of the Karma Yoga, that all the fruits of the activities have to be offered to Bhagwan. by Arjun. This is being told nicely for all of us in this verse. So we have to do something, each one of us, but whatever we have been, whichever situation we have been put by the divine in this life, if we do that, we just think of moving the direction of our activities, thinking that ultimately they are for God, then our life becomes fulfilled and we become Krishna conscious. That is in devotional service of the Lord. So Karma Yoga doesn't mean that one has to sit idle, they don't have to do anything. You do everything, but you do for the Almighty Himself. In verse 31, Bhagwan is telling again the same point to Arjun, that people who are doing their duties as per the guidance Bhagwan gives, as per the injunctions given by Bhagwan, and those who follow his teachings without envying God, they become free from the shackles of the material life. The shackles of the material life are actions which we just do for ourselves, for our own selfish motives. They are the shackles. They are the fruitive actions, Bhagwan says. So we should not have any dislike for God. We should try to understand what God has given for us as the teaching, or as the manual, as they say, in the form of Bhagavad Gita, and try to follow Bhagwan and try to follow Bhagwan's instructions and live a blissful life, and then live a purposeful life. And in verse 32, Bhagwan is saying that please don't break the rules. You should have love for Bhagwan. You should wake up in the morning, you should do your rounds nicely, you should follow the cleanliness, and you should follow the regulative principles. You should offer everything you have cooked, the vegetarian food without the onion and garlic, to Bhagwan, and then partake the remnants, have the prasad, and discuss the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam amongst your family and your well-wishers, and try to give whatever little knowledge you have to others, because this way your own understanding will be more consolidated. And and the ones who are not doing all this, Bhagwan is saying that what to call them, they are just behaving like fools, that they have got everything left in the scriptures for them, and there are so many advanced gurus and scriptures, but still they are not allowing themselves to understand and take the advantage of all the knowledge around them. So we should not behaving like fools, and we should take all the knowledge and try to improve our lives and try our best in this life to get the purpose fulfilled of this life. We know that we all have a start and an end in our lives. We came barehanded, we had nothing, we did have some dormant knowledge or the blueprints of knowledge inside us, but how gradually it comes to fore slowly in life, and in the end we become helpless again when the time is up for us, when the consciousness has decided to move on, when the soul has decided to move on and leave that body. So we should understand that we are not this body, we are this soul. We have to become self-realized in that respect, and to take advantage of the knowledge given to us in the scriptures by Bhagwan himself. So I wish you all a very nice day ahead, and we will continue this chapter Karma Yoga tomorrow. Thank you for joining. Hare Krishna.